Today, we're going to dig into a really startling vision for the future of the Catholic Church. And what's wild is that this vision didn't come from some critic on the outside. Nope. It came from the man who would one day become Pope Benedict XVI, back when he was a theologian named Joseph Ratzinger. So let's just start with this question, right off the bat. What would you think if a man who was going to be Pope one day actually predicted decades beforehand that his own church was going to shrink, lose its power, and basically be forced to start over from scratch? It sounds crazy, but that's pretty much exactly what happened. And that leads us right to the heart of this whole thing, the prophecy itself. It was 1969. He was on the radio, long before anyone was thinking of him as a future pope. And he laid out this vision that honestly feels more relevant now than it ever has. And there it is. That's the line that just stops you cold. He said the future church would be one that has lost much. Think about that. Not grown, not expanded, but lost. He wasn't giving a warning here. He was describing what he saw as an inevitable process. And you have to ask, why? Why would this brilliant thinker, this future leader of the church, see such a downsizing in its future? To get the prophecy, you first have to get the problem that he was already seeing everywhere around him. Ratzinger's diagnosis was incredibly sharp, and he gave it a name that was definitely meant to make people uncomfortable. He called the problem the new pagans. And get this, he wasn't talking about people outside the church. He was talking about the people inside. You know, what's so fascinating here is how early he started thinking about this. This wasn't some old man looking back. This was a diagnosis he was forming as a young priest in Germany right after World War II. He was watching faith just get hollowed out. And by 1958, he was already writing about these new pagans, an idea so blunt it really caused a stir. All of that observation just built up until it culminated in that radio broadcast in '69. This really breaks down the core of his critique. He saw this massive split happening. On one side, you have what he called cultural Christianity, where being a Christian is just a social habit. It's about external rules. It's just the default political setting. But on the other side, you have authentic faith, which he argued had to be a real, personal, conscious choice for Christ. I mean, he said it this bluntly. He argued the church had become a church of pagans, not a church trying to convert pagans, but a church where a non-believing mindset was actually living inside the walls and shaping it from within. And here's his exact definition. The new pagan isn't an enemy of the faith. It's someone who thinks of themselves as a member, but they just pick and choose bits from the creed to build their own worldview. It's like a buffet. They're Christian in name, but their actual operating system, as he saw it, was something else entirely. Okay, so if the big problem is a church full of non-believing believers, what's the fix? Well, for Ratzinger, the prophecy of loss wasn't a tragedy. It was a painful but absolutely necessary purification, one that would lead to a church that was smaller, yeah, but a whole lot stronger. And he laid out how he saw this happening. First, the church would lose all its social privilege, the grand buildings, the political clout, all of it. Second, it would have to become a voluntary society. People would be there because they made a real decision, not just because they were born into it. And finally, freed from all that political baggage, it would rediscover its true spiritual core. So this is what the church of tomorrow looked like in his mind. It would be poor. It would be a church of the meek. It would be smaller, for sure. And the path for its members would be a lot harder. But the crucial part, it would be totally based on personal decision, and it would be renewed by the real lived lives of saints, not by some slick marketing slogans.
Okay, but wait a minute. You hear all that, and an obvious question pops into your head, right? Is he just talking about a retreat? Is the plan to just build a little holy bubble and give up on engaging with the rest of the world?
And Ratzinger's answer to that is a hard no, absolutely not. Far from being a retreat, he saw this purified faith as a way of getting back to the very center of what it means to be human. The goal wasn't to abandon the world, but to re-engage with it from a place of real, authentic meaning. And that really gets to the ultimate purpose behind this whole painful transformation. The mission wasn't just about survival. It was about becoming something new for the world, something he compared to a tiny mustard seed. The mustard seed is honestly the perfect metaphor here. It's tiny, it looks weak, totally insignificant. But packed inside that little seed is the blueprint for life, this potential for incredible, authentic growth that comes from deep within. For Ratzinger, that's what a purified faith looks like in a secular world. So here's the end game he envisioned. After all the shaking and shrinking is over, people out in the world who feel lost and empty will stumble upon this small community of believers. And they'll see it as something totally new, a source of hope, an answer to a question they didn't even realize they were asking. So, you see, the mission fundamentally changes. It's not about trying to regain cultural power or protect big institutions anymore. It's just about being this small but vital source of life and hope that the rest of the world can turn to when it really needs it. And let's close with this really grounding thought from Ratzinger himself. He reminds us that this whole process, it's not about reaching some perfect, static destination. Faith is never something you just have. It's a journey. It's a path, and it's always under pressure. It's about constantly becoming, not just defending a fortress. Which leaves us with this final thought to really chew on. Ratzinger's entire massive prophecy really boils down to this one question, a question that goes way beyond any single religion. What's the real difference between just belonging to a group and truly believing in what it stands for?